So let's do some valuation questions before we move on to or start with making the model, so that you are clear about the concept. So you all have Excel. So calculate the value of this share, or estimate the value of this share, and do it using Excel. So that okay, so let's do it in Excel. So first, let's understand concept is simple, that you will forecast future dividend and you will calculate the present values. So the question says annual dividend for next 3 years are expected to be 2, 2.1 and 2.2. So first thing that you do is that you make a timeline. So for example, T or N, whatever number of periods. So 0 and then 0 plus 1. So we are talking about 3 years, so I will make timeline for 3 years. So whenever you are performing any valuation, first key thing to notice or key point to remember is that you should make a timeline. Now moving on, the prices are expected for next year's annual dividends are expected to be 2, 2.1 and 2.2. So 2, 2.1 and 2.2. Stock price is expected to be 20 at the end of 3 years. So which means you will have these three cash flows in future, and at the end of third year you will have another cash flow which is 20. So what will be the sum of all the cash flows? So I will make another column, another row, and take the sum. So these are the total cash flows that I will be receiving over the next 3 years. Any problem so far? Now I have to find out value. Where do I find value? I have to find out value at time 0. For calculating value at time 0, I need to discount back all these to present. So that means I need to calculate discounted cash flows. How do we calculate discounted cash flows? So you have the rate for calculating discounted cash flow. You need two key variables. One is that you should have the required return, and what required return will be using here? These are dividends, so we will be using required rate of return on equity. Required rate of return on equity is 10%. So I will use 10%. Second is that you should know the period, number of periods. So how do we calculate discounted cash flow? So one of the ways is that you do this and you take a number divided by 1 plus r to the power 1. That is how you do it. But that is not a recommended way, because that is a bit of more complexity, more chances of error, and obviously more time as well. Instead of that, simply use this formula, that is equals to PV, present value. So have you ever used financial calculator? Okay, so in financial calculator there is a row which is time value of money. So this formula is simply is exactly the same as that particular row on the financial calculator. So if I do equals to PV, this means I am finding PV, present value. I will open bracket. It will ask me for rate. Rate is 10%. Rate will remain be 10% for all the calculations. So I will block the rate or block the cell. Comma, number of periods. Number of period is this one. It will change throughout, so I will not block it. And payment, there is no payment as such. Payment is used for annuity. There is no annuity as such here, so I will leave it as blank. Future value is this. And recall from your use of financial calculator that if you put in future value as positive, it will give you a negative present value, and if you put in negative, it as negative, it will give you a positive present value. So use it as negative so that you get a positive value. Comma, end of period. So all these cash flows are happening at end of period, so 0, like happens in ordinary annuity. So it gives you the present value. You stretch the formula, and this will give you the value as at time 0. So all these are present values. When I sum up all the present values, it will give me the value as of today, which is 20.23. Any problems so far? Any problems? So let's move on.